Welcome, everybody, to a day in the life of a Clarity Practice Management user. My name's Frank Stitley, and I am not only the CEO of Clarity Practice Management, I am the managing partner of Stitley and Carstetter CPAs in Chantilly, Virginia. We are about 6 miles south of Dulles Airport, and we are in the same business you are in. We do taxes, compilations, reviews, and other accounting services. What I hope to cover over the next half hour is an ordinary day in the life of somebody who's using Clarity Practice Management. First of all, I should probably start out with what Clarity Practice Management does. First of all, it's completely cloud-based. It's browser accessible. Any of the popular browsers work with Clarity: Explorer, Edge, Chrome, Firefox. All those work just fine. What Clarity does is a combination of a number of practice management functions that should be important to your practice. First of all, project management. It helps you manage tax returns, compilations, reviews, valuations, and any other services you might have. In addition, it also provides client management and communication services. Your clients can communicate with you directly on the site, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. In addition, it allows you to help manage your staff and communicate with your staff regardless of where they're located. As an example, for instance, Stitley and Carstetter CPAs has about 20 remote workers who are located around the country, who work for us and collaborate with us on tax returns and other projects from wherever they are and whatever time is convenient for them to work. What Clarity does for you is it'll reduce meetings, it'll reduce phone calls, and it'll reduce emails. So let's jump right on in. First of all, notice that the navigation is along the left side with an Explorer tree. Any place you see a plus sign, just as you would expect, you have some more choices underneath it. So I'm going to start out with the dashboard that every user has when they first log into the system. This is a typical place to start a morning out. First of all, I can see all the different projects I have and what statuses they're in. For instance, 67 in progress, 32 that are being finalized, 6 that are in review. And this is much more than just a pretty chart. If I click on it, it will give me a query that shows all the returns that are in that particular status. So I can start out my day seeing exactly where I'm at. Next, if we go down a little bit on the screen, you can see how many projects that the user is on, how many clients they're attached to as the primary contact. See how many active tasks. Over on the left, we have workflow tasks that are overdue. User can see all the tasks that they have that aren't being accomplished yet. This is a good place to look to see what should be coming up. And the way to access those tasks is to right-click. If I don't want to shut the current window, click on Open New Tab. And it takes me directly to that particular project where I'm supposed to be working on that task. And I did that without losing the active window that I was on. Also, I have a listing of upcoming tasks. These are things that I haven't been tagged on yet, but that I will be tagged on based on the due date shortly. Over on the right, we have a section called New Notifications. Notifications are notifications, first of all, that you get whenever any of the clients on the projects you're attached to do something on the site. For instance, if they load a file for you, you get a notification. If they leave a note for you, you get a notification. Likewise, staff can leave notes for you here as well. In fact, this is a section that we use so heavily during tax season that if you look over on the left navigation bar, we have a spot just for notifications so that you can have a full page and see all the notifications that are available. And you can also sort these by oldest first or newest first. So the My Dashboard place is a place where you'll start most days. Let's talk about clients. I may want to look up a client. So I will go to a client that I have in the system, Wile E. Coyote. And again, I'll right-click on Wiley, and that allows me to open it in a new tab within the browser. The first screen that we're going to see with the client is obviously client name, and you may not know this. Here's a useful piece of information for you. Wile E. Coyote was married, as was the Roadrunner, and Roxanne is his wife's name. So we have address, we have the client manager in charge of this particular client, we have contact name, contact email, and we have 3 different phone numbers that we can set up for a client. Also, we have the ability to check that a client does not want tax returns or tax documents posted here. Down at the bottom, or in the middle of the screen, we have 2 sections for notes. The first section is client notes. We can leave notes for clients here. Clients can leave notes for us. As you can see, I left a message here for Wile E. Coyote. When we leave a message for a client, they get an email notification as well as a notification on their dashboard in Clarity. Over on the right, we have an internal notes section where we can leave notes for various staff members, and the way these notes work is put in the note, and if you want to notify a specific staff member, click on the notify button and pick the staff member that you would like to notify. Add user, and you can notify more than one person if you want. Hit the notify button. The internal notes do not generate an email notification. We're trying as much as possible to reduce email or eliminate it. They generate a notification on the dashboard of the other person. If we go to the bottom of the screen, this is our project summary section. And we have basically 6 different types of projects. We have active projects, of which we do not have any at this point for Wile E. Coyote. We have projects that have not been started yet. We have completed projects. These are typically completed tax returns or other projects that you've done, like compilations, reviews, bookkeeping, sales tax, etc. We have a complete list of all of those, and they can be sorted by any of the headings. So if I want the newest ones up top, I can just click on project due date and you can see it reverse sorts. We have a place for extended projects. So if you have a tax return on extension, you can put it into extended status. We also have a section for projects that are on hold, and what these typically are projects where the client has temporarily lost interest in the project, but you know at some point that they're going to have to pick it up again. The purpose of putting them on hold is it doesn't enter into your active project count. And finally, we have deleted projects. When you delete a project, it does not really go away. We still have it behind the scenes. So if you decide you want to make one of these reactive and start over again, it's very easy to call it up and reactivate it. Talk about some of the other tabs that we have for clients, one of which is user accounts. This is the contact person for the client, and you can have more than one of these. Not only that, but a client can have more than one account. For example, you might have a corporate tax client that has a corporate account that the owner has access to as well as the controller. The owner might then have a personal account that only the owner and the spouse have access to. We can post files for clients directly to the client record. I like to think of this as more of a perm file. We don't typically post tax returns here or files that are related to a specific project. This would be something like an S corporation acceptance, something like that. You can also tag clients with group tags, and the way this works is this list along the left is a set of user-definable tags. You can then assign categories to a particular client just by picking the one that you want or multiples by holding down the control key. And if I hit the right arrow, they now become part of the group tags that this client belongs to. And the way this works is we can do lookups, we can do mass emails, we can do exports based on these tags. Jurisdiction due date. These are all the due dates that a client is subject to. This is also a user-definable list. I know in Virginia we have county personal property taxes and the county business license tax. And all the different counties potentially have different due dates. So you can build that into your table and select that for each particular client. You can post invoices to Clarity. Typically, you're going to post them to a project, and I'll show that to you in a little bit. But when they're posted to a project, they also show here, and you can see the ones that aren't paid. And as I'll show you when we get to actual projects, clients can pay by credit card directly on the site. The last tab I'll cover, for simplicity's sake, is the email history tab. This shows you all the emails that have gone out to a client from Clarity Practice Management. If you get a message from a client saying, I got an email, I don't know what that means, you can come back here and you can even click on the body button and you can see exactly what that message said. These messages are all user customizable, and I will cover that in another video. It's a bit much for us to cover at first glance when you're first new to the system. So those are the basic screens that a user uses on day-to-day with regard to clients. Next, I'm going to create a project. So let's say we're going to create the 2018 tax return project for Wile E. Coyote. There are two ways to do this. First of all, you can create a project from scratch. However, for the most part, you're going to create project templates, which allow you to create a project in about 5 seconds. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to select from a pre-stored template. In this case, we basically have teams set for different types of services. You can see we have individual returns, C Corps, partnerships, S Corps, and so forth. I'm going to pick an individual tax return with the following team. I can give it a different name if I want. I can take the due dates that are defined in the template, or I can start with today's date, which I will do, and hit the Create button. And this is all there is to creating a project or a tax return project. And I'm going to go through some of these screens with you. The Project Info tab, you have the project name. Of course, project type came from the template. The project type defines a lot of things, most specifically the workflow steps and potential template questions at the Q&A stage. You can see we have 4 different staff positions on a project. We can set a priority. Project state, these are the different types that I showed you a little bit earlier: active, not started, archived means completed, extended, on hold, and deleted. How are we going to deliver the project? And this is user definable, as well as the filing method. The file creation date or the project creation date is stamped by the system, so that's not changeable. However, you can change the assigned date. You can change the project due date. In this case, this came from the template. And you can put in the expected delivery date. And I am going to change the assigned date to show you something a little bit later. So I hit the update button. And now I've made some changes to the project. Workflow steps. Workflow steps are the nitty-gritty of how this project gets created. And this is an individual tax return project. So you have the opportunity to set up workflow steps for each type of project. For instance, the workflow steps for an individual tax return project are likely going to be significantly different than the workflow steps for, say, a compilation or a review or a bookkeeping engagement. You can see we have workflow steps here on the left. These map to what's called a status. And the status is actually what the client sees when this project is in a particular workflow step. Then we have the personnel assigned to each of the steps. This came over from the template, which is one of the advantages of using a template. We also have due dates for each one of the steps. And again, these are changeable, but they also came over from the template. You might have noted a little bit earlier that I changed the due date on the project info screen. If I want to update the project dates for that new assigned date, it's as simple as saying reset workflow to project assigned date. And if I confirm yes, I want to do that, then see all the due dates have changed to reflect that new day. When a particular step is complete, staff member will come in, hit the mark as completed, and it moves on to the next workflow step and the next person in line to do this. In this case, we have an admin user. Admin user for us might be any one of several people in our admin department, and they will use the admin user to do the things that the admin tasks require on, for instance, an individual tax return. The estimated hours for each workflow step, these are also assigned at the project type level. Any of these workflow steps can generate an email notification to clients, and these email notifications are entirely customizable by you. When we set you up with a trial, we will give you a cut down set of workflow that we think is a little bit easier to use, but as you become familiar with the system, you can customize anything in the system, including the workflow, the email notifications, literally anything to meet your situation. So when might we send an email notification? Well, here we have a step called draft sent to client. So if we post a draft tax return here, we can then send an email notification out to the client that says, hey, you have a draft here to approve. Not only does it do that, but if the client has not approved the draft within a certain number of days that you get to define, they'll get a reminder email. And they don't just get reminder emails, they also get a notification on their dashboard at the Client Center. So you can see it's relatively easy to keep track of where returns are in progress. We also have notes for, again, public notes, which clients can see, and internal notes, which clients do not see. They work the same way as the notes on the client record work. Questions and answers. You can ask questions of clients directly on the site. I clicked on something a little wrong. So I will go back to the Q&A tab, and starting a new question, I click on the Add New Questionnaire, and you can have as many questionnaires or rounds of questions as you want. First, we give it a name. Do we want to send reminders? And typically we do, and you can see here we have reminders to start after a grace period of 5 days, and then they get a reminder every day or every 5 days after that. So I'll click on yes. There are two different ways to ask questions of a client. First of all, we can ask questions from a template of questions that are specific to this project type, in this case, individual tax returns. This list is totally user definable, so you can set up the questions that you want with the exact wording that you want to use. So for me to select from the predefined questions, I just click on a few of them, hit the Add to List, and I have the Start to a Questions list. If I want to add custom questions that aren't on the list, I hit the Add Custom Question button. Type in the question, hit Add to List, and I have it. If at any point I want to delete any of the questions, I can hit the little trash can and it goes away. If I want to edit a question, click on the little pencil icon, make whatever changes I want to make, hit the Update button. If I want to reorder the questions, it's as simple as dragging and dropping it where I want it to go. I can also send a note to the client. And now I can save the questionnaire if I have a supervisor who's going to review the questions first and then come along and send them, or I can send them directly, which I will do since I'm in charge of this client. Now the client will get an email saying that there's a questions list for them to answer. They will also get the reminders as necessary. You will actually see the answers here. When the clients have completed answering the questions, you'll get a notification on your dashboard saying that, for instance, Wile E. Coyote answered questions. So you can access those questions and the answers. And see, here is where they would have answered the questions. And if you need a new questionnaire or follow-up questions, you can hit the Add New Questionnaire button and start again with a new set of questions. You can post files directly to Clarity Practice Management. And it's as simple as drag and drop in. To demonstrate that, I will grab a file, drag it in. When we drag a file in for a client, we have a couple of choices. First of all, we can change the description for the file if we don't like the actual file name itself. If this is a draft tax return or a draft set of financial statements, we can check the Need Approval checkbox, which then allows the client to approve or disapprove of a draft. And if they disapprove, they can give you a reason for the disapproval. If this is a file that we want to save after the project has been completed, we click the Preserve File checkbox. So once we've made our selections here, we hit the Save button, and it becomes part of the files from your firm to the client. And when you do this, the client gets a notification again, both by email and on their dashboard. Clients can post files for us. It's as simple as dragging and dropping the files into this section on their side. Then you get a notification on your dashboard saying that the client has posted a file. If the client posts, say, 20 files in an hour, you don't get 20 different notifications. It rolls them up into one notification so that you don't get deluged with a whole bunch of different notifications when they really only did one thing. This is a great place for people to post QuickBooks backups or Sage 50 backups. We also, in our CPA practice, about 70% of our clients post all of their documents directly here. So rather than dropping them off or coming in for meetings, they come in here, and then we have admin download them, smash them into a PDF, run them through a scan and populate program that puts the data directly into our tax software. And only then does the preparer actually start to work on it. This is one way when you can virtually eliminate meetings for existing clients, as well as cut down on faxes and emails. I know we all dread that client that sends us 15 files, one attachment at a time over 2 weeks. This gets rid of that. On the client side, they actually have the ability to tell you that they're done posting files and ready for you to start the tax return. Post the engagement letter here. And again, this is drag and drop as well. And I will grab an engagement letter and drag it and drop it in. Again, the client gets a notification when you've done this. You can also pre-store engagement letters in Clarity under the admin module and then select from them here. When you get the engagement letter, you have the ability to check it off here and note that you have it. It's also possible to run a query for all of the projects that do not have signed engagement letters. Invoices. You can post invoices for tax returns or any other project directly here. And again, it's drag and drop. It's very simple. So I'll drag and drop a file in here. And I'll call it tax return invoice, put the dollar amount in here, hit the save button. And on the client side of Clarity Practice Management, the client can pay by credit card, and you can use any credit card processor that has a gateway. and there is a section in the admin module to connect up to your credit card processor. If you don't have a credit card processor, we have one that we recommend that works very well with Clarity. Review notes. Let's say you're reviewing a tax return that a staff member has done. You may want to make some review notes. The way this works is type in the note. And this would be a not uncommon note. You then get to classify the review note, and this list is user definable. This is the list we happen to use. Comments, which really aren't errors, data entry errors, concept errors, and cosmetic changes. And you have the ability under reports to slice and dice review notes by project type, by preparer, just about any way you want. So this to me is a concept error, so I'll save it. And you can have as many of these as you want. You can come back and edit and delete them. If you edit or delete them, however, it takes management access. A standard user, staff user can't do that. And again, we can see the email history for a particular project, and you can see that these are two that I just did that got generated by the system. I can click on body and I can see exactly what went out. Time tracking. We have time tracking built into Clarity Practice Management. The way it works is you go to the project, you hit Start Timer, and you see a timer down in the lower left. When you're done working on a project, or if you leave the project, the timer will stop. You can also add manual entries. And does not allow a future date, which is a good thing. You can see that behind each staff member, we have a table of staff costs that you can enter and billing rate, as well as you can see what the profit is for this particular project or this particular entry. Let's talk about some management features. I showed you the user dashboard. There's also a corporate dashboard that's great for partners or only people who have management access. This shows you the firm overall, the projects by status, where they are, and the projects by type. Also gives you some statistics on invoices that have been posted to the system versus ones that have been paid. And if we go down a little bit, we get a listing of staff members. And most important to me is we can see their committed workload out into the future. So if you're looking at assigning a tax return, you can take a look and see what staff members are already over committed in terms of hours. And the way that works is when you set up a project type, each workflow step gets assigned a certain period of time that we expect that step to take. And that all rolls up into all the projects that each one of these staff members is on. And that's a quickie look at a day in the life of a Clarity Practice Management user. We offer a free trial and pricing starts at $50 per user per month. By all means, get in contact with us. We can do a much more personalized demo. Thank you for your time, and I hope to talk to you soon.